By the power of Grayskull,
The power has finally returned. Masters of the Universe Revelations Part 1 is a continuation of a classic cartoon from the 80s. Part 1 consists of 5 episodes, and without giving too much away story-wise, the magic needs to be returned to Eternia. The first episode, By the Power of Grayskull, is basically one giant throwback to the 80s show. From bringing back all the characters with their individual quirks, to the simple plot of Skeletor trying to invade Castle Grayskull. And when you hear that legendary shout, how can you not get goosebumps?
By the power of Grayskull. I have the power!
By the end of the first episode, the story gets deep and the stakes get high. Gone are the days of the standalone adventures of He-Man, and the post-episode PSAs about reading books, not going off with strangers and, kicking squirrels up the arse. Those days have passed. Now it's time for a more edgy and adult-orientated product. But I reckon kids can watch it. There's nothing really here that can harm them. Well, almost.
Oh, bollocks.
Now, if you're expecting to see He-Man always making the save, you might be disappointed because he's mostly sidelined here, leaving Teela to take the lead. But for the most part, I didn't mind this. In fact, I think she held her own in the spotlight. Sarah Michelle Gellar lends her voice perfectly to the role. Strong, knows what she's doing, but still has emotional scars. But when you do see He-Man on screen, he's just as charismatic as he was in the original, and Chris Wood does a great job in the role. Now, talking about the voice cast, Revelations pulls out all the stops, including Game of Thrones' Lena Headey and Liam Cunningham as Evil Lyn and Man-at-Arms. Or Duncan. F***ing Duncan! Evil Lyn has a devilish streak in her. At one point I shouted at the TV calling her a bitch. But she comes off as charming too. In a good way, of course. And Headey's voice adds to that.
Sorry, sorceress. I'm not Clawful, but I can be.
Same goes for Cunningham's performance. Man-at-Arms comes off as more as a battle-hardened veteran, as well as a father figure to Teela in this continuation. Actually, this is what I like the most about Revelations, is that it continues to build on what is already there from the 80s show. Not just Eternia's lore, but characters too. A big example of that is Orko. Now, if you watched my reaction video, you'll know that I'm a big fan of Orko, but I know he has a reputation of being an annoying little But I genuinely believe Revelations will change people's minds about Orko. Orko's time is spent here reflecting on his role in the past, and the part he plays in He-Man's adventures. It really hit me hard in the feels. So I stand by what I said before. I think he is a badass. My main man Skeletor is back, and he's just as cunning, spiteful, and self-righteous as ever. And he is voiced by Mark Hamill, which, let's be honest, is a no-brainer.
You are overwhelmed. So call him Thormonger. Call your champion.
And I'd never thought I'd see the day the Joker and Batman are on the same side, as Kevin Conroy does the voice for Merman.
When the brine fills your lungs and you've taken your last breath, know that it will be me who pries the sword of power from your cold, dead hands.
My mind is blown at this point. The animation is fantastic. All the colours just pop, and no matter how dark the show gets, it still retains its colour and still manages to fit in. Very reminiscent of the 80s, especially in the first episode. And the action scenes are as smooth as butter and as hard hitting as a TLC match. It's great stuff, and the character designs remain faithful, but at the same time, Revelations manages to add a good amount of tweaks to some characters without forgetting their roots. Now, as I mentioned before, this is not your standard Saturday morning affair. This is one continuous storyline over 5 episodes. And even though the plot is pretty straightforward, it's the characters and the expansion to Eternia's lore that had me hooked. And it didn't rely on exposition dumps, which is grand. But if I'm honest, I think part 1's ending is gonna piss a few people off. But I believe it's a pretty good cliffhanger, and I'm intrigued to see what will happen in part 2. Now, I'm going to go into some spoilers for this next bit. Not the ending, just stuff in the first half of part 1. And if you want to go into it completely blind, I suggest you skip to here. You done it yet? Last chance. Okay, let's go. Just before the end of episode 1, Skeletor cracks the orb that contains the magic of Eternia, and to save the world from being destroyed, He-Man sacrifices himself by absorbing the explosion. And in doing so, he reveals to Teela that he was Prince Adam all along. And I have to be honest with you here, I thought Teela's response to this was completely unfair. I understand that she's been lied to, and she has the right to be a little upset. But the thing is, your friend has just died. The same friend that has saved your ass many, many times. And it's even shown in one of the flashbacks. And she is way too harsh on Duncan. Apart from lying to her, he's done nothing wrong. And he spends the entire time trying to make amends when there's nothing to make amends for. Also, if you haven't figured out that Prince Adam and He-Man are obviously the same person yet, then me, there really isn't any hope for you, is there? Also, the big question is Masters of the Universe Revelations woke? Yes, very woke. I mean, come on, the main male lead has been taken over by the secondary female character. Evelyn has changed sides and now fights alongside her. And Teela and Andra? Yes, they are. And you know what? I don't mind it. In fact, I wouldn't say this show was in your face about it. But I do understand why people would have a problem with this. And as I can see from the viewer score on Rotten Tomatoes, that seems to be the case. Look, I really enjoyed this show. But if you didn't like it for that reason, or for any other reason for that matter, that's okay. In fact, I get it, and you're entitled to your own opinion. And from what I've heard, the creators are not very happy about what the viewers think of the show. And the only thing I'm going to say about it is, well, they have to get over it, don't they? In the end, I had a cracking time with Masters of the Universe Revelations. It's a fun adventure with likeable returning characters whilst expanding on the show's lore. And I really appreciate the first episode's original run vibes. Obviously, not everyone's going to like this, and again, you have every right not to like this. But if you look at it from my point of view, you'd probably enjoy it, whether you are an old fan or a newcomer. So why not head over to Netflix, knock on the door of Castle Grayskull and say, hey, yeah, 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 yeah. And those are my thoughts on Masters of the Universe Revelations. But what do you guys think? Have you seen the show? Who's your favourite He-Man character? And why Duncan? Comment down below and let me in the know. And that's about everything for today, my friends. And thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like what you saw, make sure you like, share and subscribe. And follow me on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. I've been Titch and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.